I'm Louise Little. I'm Senior Solution Architect at AWS. I've been at AWS now for about 6 months. So getting here, I mean, it's been a journey, but I started out with an interest in basically in the internet, right? When I was younger, the internet kind of came to the town that I was in quite late. But once it sort of got there, it was super exciting to dial up on the modem and chat to people across the world, and it just gave me this interest in, I don't know, in technology. So after high school, I decided to study computer science. I studied at TIX, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed studying.
Yes.
After that, I kind of worked a little bit at a few places, and then ended up at a defense company where we did development on defense systems, which was really
fascinating.
It was super interesting, and I think it gave me the opportunity or a unique perspective in software development, because when you're building defense systems, it's like this the interface between hardware and software, right? I think when one uses the internet, you know the machines and the hardware itself is far away, right? And then this was now bringing everything together and seeing it sort of built up in front of you. I worked there for a long time, traveled all over the place. It was a lot of fun. But at a stage, sort of, you realize defense is not the place for new technologies, right? It's the place for sort of older stuff, and that's just the nature of the business. So to get exposure into newer technologies, I decided to go and work at an insurance company, and luckily I sort of came into this business unit where they had a very aggressive sort of stance on technology and using new tools. I progressed from being a software engineer writing code every day to being responsible for deliveries at the defense company, and then at the insurance company I came in as a technical lead for system, like a microservices system, writing everything in Java, and then about a year and a half on, I was promoted into the solution architect role. And that was a lot of fun as well, where I finally got to say how I felt the system should be built, and we did a big migration into AWS, and that kind of really ignited my interest in cloud technology. And then I applied to work here, and here I am.
That is just amazing. So I know there are all kinds of different customers that we work with here at AWS. So do you work with your big enterprise? You work with startup customers? Just tell us a little bit about that.
I'm working with the big enterprise customers. So similar to the environment that I came from, enterprise environments, those are the customers I'm focusing on today.
Okay, that's awesome. And what's your typical day like with you and your customers? Just take us through that a little bit.
So typically, I'll start out in the morning sort of looking at any emails that came in, the usual kind of admin stuff, and really sort of focusing on a couple of topics, questions that the customers might have. So in the solution architecture role, we try and coach the customers in the art of the possible, right? So they often have questions about, how do we do this? What is the best practice for that thing? And we can give that advice. So that's very interesting. We have several meetings with the various customers, on a daily basis. Sometimes customers will come to our offices for workshops. Sometimes we'll present workshops. It's quite a varied schedule, I guess one would say. But there's also a lot of focus on getting better at the various services in AWS. Learning more about this is a good reference architecture. This is a nice best practice. This is what's happening in the industry, right? There's been a lot of discussion about things like ChatGPT. So you have to keep abreast of these things.
Okay.
You need to read up about it, experiment. If customers have questions about services in AWS that I haven't used before, I'll go and try them out, maybe try build something. So it's a very stimulating kind of schedule.
Yeah.
The day-to-day does change quite a lot, so there's not a lot of routine, I'd say. But it keeps it super interesting. Yeah.
Okay, that's so great. Okay, so now just wrapping up. If I'm listening to this and I think I would also love to be a solutions architect in AWS, what advice would you give me?
I think that it's super important to build things, right? So if you are interested in working at AWS, create an account for yourself. You can get like a free tier account. For your first year, you don't need to pay anything, and go and try things out, right? Think about a problem that you have, and try and build like a solution using the services in AWS to sort of solve that problem. That to me would be a very good way of learning about how cloud technology works, getting to grips with the sort of the lingo, because that's another thing on its own, right?
Yes.
And yeah, just sort of exploring your interests,
Okay.
right? And I think that's a good way of I don't know, litmus testing anything that you want to do.
Yes.
Like try it out, and don't be scared to make mistakes. And
Okay.
yeah, just give it a go.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And you are on social media. If anyone wants to follow you, connect with you, which platform are you mostly at? Twitter or LinkedIn? Where can we find you?
I'm mostly on Twitter, but I'm, I guess, a lurker, right?
Okay.
So I don't really post much. I read a lot on Twitter. I think it's a great platform.
Yes.
LinkedIn, yes, I'm there. Yeah, happy to connect with anyone.
Okay, great. I'll share your LinkedIn profile for people who are looking to connect with you or follow you. Thank you very much for chatting with us. This was really awesome and I learned a lot. Thank you very much, Louise.
Thanks for listening.
Okay, great.
I spent over 2 decades in the telco industry, building everything from data centers to fiber to the home, MPLS networks. And what I started to see within that telco space was the evolve of software and cloud. And as I was building services focusing towards the edge, I ended up looking after a team that was developing software that would run in the cloud. And I think that kind of drove my passion towards the cloud and understanding how much value it could bring to customers and how this transition was going to help customers pivot into the cloud. And that kind of led me to look at who the leaders in this space were. And that kind of navigated my journey through to AWS.
That's awesome. You've been here at AWS for how long now?
So I've been at AWS just over 2.5 years.
Okay.
And it's been a roller coaster, but a fantastic journey so far.
That's awesome. So I know here at AWS we've got all kinds of customers. We've got startups, we've got big enterprises. Who is your customer that you work with all the time?
So I work in an area called Enterprise Greenfields. And what that is a journey for customers who are still early in their journey. They're fairly large organizations, but they're kind of early in the cloud journey, navigating their first workloads into the cloud. So kind of trying to help them identify what that first use case would be. Also deciphering what are these services that AWS have, and helping both the people in the organization understand those services and how they can best leverage them in the cloud, which is somewhat different from how they would do those things traditionally on-prem.
Okay, so is there a lot of educating or guidance around how to because I know with some of the people that we work with is, I am a networks engineer outside of the cloud.
Yeah.
How am I now a networks engineer in the cloud? Is there a lot of that re-education as well?
Yeah, so we like one of the key roles for us is to we aspire to be an extension of the customer. And what that means is we spend a lot of time with the customer teams, especially the technical teams, focusing on this is these are the services that you can leverage in the cloud, and how to do enablement on them. So we do things like immersion days, and what that would do is to say, if you did IPsec, for example, on-prem, how would you do that in the cloud, and translating those services to help customers navigate that journey.
Okay, that's really quite interesting. And do you find that, I know we've kind of gone quite a journey with the cloud, especially in South Africa. Do you find that customers still get very nervous when they think about moving their workloads off on premises onto the cloud?
I think that there is more of a misalignment or understanding. So the fear comes from not necessarily that the technology isn't there to support them. It's that personal fear of, I don't know how to do this, and that's where the role as the solution architect is to kind of spend time with the customer and says, with the cloud you have the ability to turn services up and tear them down relatively quickly. So showcasing them and leveraging the technologies to be able to help them transition that is where we spend a lot of our time.
Okay, great. And is there any collaborations with other teams here at AWS as you do this?
Yeah, so with the solution architecture team, we have multiple different solution architects. So one, we've got partner solution architects, because this journey is the solution architect, the partners that we bring in to work with our customers, but also supporting those partners. So we have solution architects who support them. Then we also have TAMs, which are technical account managers, where they help the customer once the workloads have kind of been migrated across. Then we've got specialists who can help, specialist SAs who can help customers dive very deep on a specific technology like machine learning, networking, or any of those.
Okay. What normally guides I'm just curious on the specialist interactions. What normally guides that interaction?
So, as we spend time with customers and kind of understand the need and the use case, sometimes there's a need to dive specifically deep into, how would the nuance of the specific service work? And there it's around bringing in the specialist who understands how to leverage the technology for the customer specific use case.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I know you've talked about what you do. Can you tell me, out of all that you do with the customers or for the customers, what do you really enjoy? What makes your day?
So the thing that excites me most is around helping a customer's business succeed. So where I spend most of my time is watching a customer launch and seeing that service actually come to fruition and their customers getting to use that service.
Wow.
So I've spent many days doing architectural reviews, building the service, but nothing beats watching a customer bring that live and watching their customers benefit from it.
That's awesome. So what would you say to someone who's watching and they think they want to be a solutions architect, but they don't know where to start, or what would make them ready?
I think the first thing that you got to have is curiosity. We've got this thing of learn and be curious, and you've got to want to understand what a customer's need is, and that curiosity will drive you to ask customers what they need, understand how to build those things for customers, and that's the foundational component of what will get you started on that journey. Then we have programs from a skill set, cloud practitioner, associate solution architect, which would be a good foundational element to help you build on your career, to get you to understand what's the requirements, how to think about the mental model of approaching this. And then we've got the professional solution architect, which will kind of solidify that foundational elements, but also help you to understand the broader scope of what's required. I'm available on both LinkedIn. You can get hold of me on Twitter. The name is Kaveer Hari, Kaveerharie.
Thank you so much, Kaveer. Thank you so much for making the time to chat with us.